Welcome to the Pitchwerks Podcast. I'm Scott McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks Podcast.
So, worked out this deal. They kind of called it, they didn't really have a name for it. Kind of the pilot program. Two other companies came under the same, these same terms, but essentially.
Like limited resources.
Yeah, we had basically access to the full program. We just didn't have the full office and we didn't take the funding, but beneficial to us because we also didn't give up a bigger chunk of equity.
Oh, don't let that slip, right?
Right, which is a big deal. And so, for me, it ended up being actually a better arrangement than had I been accepted.
Yeah. You didn't need the money.
No, and I think they liked the fact. Frankly, I think they liked the fact that they said no, and I said, yeah, but, that's...
There's going to be a lot of no's.
Right. You're going to hear no, and you learn more from no's anyway.
Well, hello there, Pitchworkers. It's another Wednesday, and that means it's another Pitchwerks podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you've been doing it for a while or this is your first one, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that the show has a following and all the listeners. Thank you so much. I got a good one on the hook this week, and actually, we might have become best friends. I don't know. It's very possible. Mike Neilson and I don't know. Great guy and just a never-ending sort of determination to accomplish the goal in front of him. Mike Neilson, Switcheroo is the product. It's home automation without necessarily putting your devices on the internet. Here in the age of cybersecurity, Mike's got a fairly simple idea that he couldn't find anywhere else. No one else was making the product, so he just apparently decided that he was going to be the guy who makes it and started a company and launched a Kickstarter and did all the things necessary in order to turn this gap in the market into a new business. And he was part of an accelerator program, an incubator program for hardware startups, and just some really interesting things happening for Switcheroo. I like the guy, I like his determination, and I like the process that he followed. I did a lot of research on how this all started. Mike fits in perfectly here on the Pitchwerks Podcast. Don't forget there's a website out there. It's called pitchwerks.com. You spell that Pitchwerks. Put the E in works, and that's also how you find us on the social media channels. That would be LinkedIn company page, that's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, all the usual suspects. Let's jump into the conversation that we had with Mike Neilson from Switcheroo. So Mike, I think you might be my hero. Welcome into the studio and tell me a little bit about Switcheroo.
Oh my, well, that's high praise to start off with.
It is high praise, and I mean every word of it.
Thank you. So let me tell you about Switcheroo. Yeah, so it's a dead simple product that allows you to reconfigure your home wiring without running any wires. If you have a switched outlet in your house, an outlet that turns on and off with a wall switch, and you want another outlet somewhere else in your room or even anywhere else in your house to turn on with that same switch. Right now, you could run extension cords, you can bust up walls, you can install a complicated smart home system that gets on your Wi-Fi. Switcheroo is a much easier way to solve that problem. Looking at what's out there right now in this home automation world, I'm a geek. So
great.
I get out there and I'm like, this stuff's great. I like this stuff. Start to set up some home automation stuff. I want to turn on my lights. Pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
Get an app to turn on your lights. That seems pretty cool, right?
I've seen it everywhere, yeah.
It's pretty neat. So you get the app out and you're like, oh, my phone. And it's a disaster. What ends up happening is your phone...
Not to put too fine a point on it, it's a disaster.
We're not going to beat around the bush here. Let's just get right into it. It's a mess because, your phone and your light bulbs are on the Wi-Fi and you're giving your light bulbs your Wi-Fi password. I don't even give my friends my Wi-Fi password.
Yeah, for real.
It's like, and your Wi-Fi is out and your thing doesn't work. And then mother-in-law comes over to watch the kids. I get that text halfway through the movie. How do I turn on your lights? So I looked at that and just said, this is a mess. I can't deal with this. And it was one of those like kind of aha moments where like there has to be a better way for this. All I really wanted to do was to reconfigure the lighting in my house. That's all I was trying to do.
Just for your own house.
Just for my own house. And so I thought, this exists.
Yeah.
Surely this exists. It's simple. Go on Amazon, like I always do.
Yeah.
I buy everything on Amazon.
Well, because you can find whatever it is that your local company won't stock, right? Your local store won't stock.
Got it. Gotta love Amazon. So I hop on there and I'm like, this is easy. I'll figure out some way to do this without apps and all that. I just want to sync up some lighting. It doesn't exist. It's just not out there.
So all you were trying to do is control the lights, and you just like, let's start a business?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the really short version of the story. But yes, for me, I'm a guy who I was already going to Alpha Lab pitch events.
Yeah, you liked this stuff
I just
already.
liked that world. I used to go to those events and think, what's my idea? I need an idea. I want to make something.
Got it.
And I think a lot of times that ends up being the wrong approach, where you're trying to find this solution. And for me, what happened was I always had that on the back burner. I always kind of knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what. Yeah. And then at the same time, almost parallel to that, this problem pops in where it's like, this is an easily solvable problem that has not yet been solved. And it's probably not just me who has this problem. So kind of clicked, together at one time. It's like, okay, wait a minute. I kind of want to do something on my own, and I kind of have this problem I want to solve. Yeah. Let's go. And that's where...
I mean, did you have a background in electronics or electrical engineering or anything that would help with this?
None whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where the hero bit comes in. Because the way I read this, if I'm correct, and I need you to correct me anytime I get something wrong here, you are a marketer by trade, yes?
Yeah, I did some marketing and I did some software stuff. I was doing I was a business analyst for a couple different places doing, I don't even know,
Not an electrician.
Not an electrician. That's the best way to put it.
Not an electrical engineer.
Not by any means, no.
But here you are, and you've got a product, and it simplifies what I would pay an awful lot of money to an electrician to do in my home. And I mean, you're getting into problems you don't really want to get into.
Exactly.
So yeah, you decide that you're going to be in this space, but you don't have the electrical background. Where do you go next?
Well, seems obvious, but I had to go find an electrical engineer. That was kind of one of the first ones that, I need someone to actually build it.
Well, some people would have just gone someplace else and rebadged somebody else's existing product. So you made this from a blank sheet of paper. Yeah.
Yeah. We, there were some ways to do this, hacking some other stuff together, right? But not really the way that I wanted to. I wanted something that I had my own idea for how this thing needed to work. I needed it to be as dead simple as possible. Yeah. And, knowing that the end presentation is so important. I think...
in what way? You're talking about the way it looks?
The way it looks, the way it functions. I'm a big proponent of just good design. Yeah. The simplicity of excellent design, I think, is often kind of overlooked. And even working in software, I worked a lot on mobile apps, funny enough, because I'm trying to do this without mobile apps. But I did a lot of that stuff, and so many people would look at a really simple product and often think, oh, it's simple. It was simple for someone to make because it's really simple to use. And it's the opposite. Really well-designed things require tons and tons of effort. And in the end, they end up seeming extraordinarily simple.
I'm so glad someone has said this on my show because it's totally true. Yeah. It's very difficult to make something look simple.
It's really hard. Yeah. It's really, and you always have the someone who busts into your design session when we're wireframing software. There's always someone who busts in and says, I just put a button here. And it's like, what is all this? Making something that really works well with minimal amount of, interface options. That's really hard to do.
So you hired an electrical engineer.
Yep.
Now, obviously, this is not something that people are used to just sort of flipping through the phone book for, right?
Right.
Did you have people that you knew that were in this space, or did you actually have to interview and find the right person for you?
I started off... so let me revise that story a little bit now that I think about it. I started, the very first thing I did was actually call a lawyer. I called an IP attorney. Yeah. And I just did a Google search. I was looking for local IP attorneys. I wanted someone who understood some of the technology that I was working with or thinking about. And so I ended up coming across an IP attorney with an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. And I said, this is my guy. This
has to be your guy.
This is who I start with. And so I started off going to him, and right away he said, you need to talk to Alpha Lab Gear. You need to get over there and talk to them. And that's actually
for the people who don't know, because we've got people from outside of Pittsburgh, they're really big around here. But, and they are world renowned, honestly, as a hardware acceleration organization. Yeah. It's where you go when you've got one of these budding ideas that's, it needs some help. It needs some people to fan the flame. So,
and they're perfect for that. I mean, I went over there. I just talked to them initially. I had just missed the cutoff for that previous cycle. I think it was in October, and I shouldn't say the cutoff, but the previous cycle had just started.
Oh, got it.
So it's like, okay, well now you can wait till
long wait.
next year, and it just seemed like so long. But it takes a while to develop these things anyway.
There's plenty to do in the background in the meantime.
So there was a lot of stuff going on, and then by the time the next cycle rolled around, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I applied over there. There's a lot of applicants, so it's a fairly rigorous application process.
And they have a tremendous output. When they finally get to demo day, which was yesterday here locally, we're recording on the 25th of May, so yesterday was demo day.
Yep.
You can't help but be impressed by the final product.
It's
and you
amazing.
know they didn't look like that coming in.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. And so, going through that process, it was fairly rigorous. I made it to the last, there was an interview at the end. Mm-hmm. Got into my interview, thought I did a great job. They emailed me. It dragged on a little long. It's like, wow, I'm waiting for something. This is like my life is like, am I quitting my job? What am I doing?
18 consecutive days of pure adrenaline, right?
Just refresh on the email over and over. And I'm in a meeting. I was like presenting in a meeting, and that email pops in, and you see that first line, and it's the old, we had a lot of applicants this year.
Oh boy.
It's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Right.
No, and I had to like keep my game face on and keep presenting, but I saw that, enough of it pop up on my computer. So that was a rejection. It was a rejection from Alpha Lab Gear, and I'm not the kind of guy to take no for an answer. And so I didn't exactly arm wrestle them for a spot, but what I did was I just shot them an email and said, look, I got nothing to lose here.
Yeah.
I want to be part of the program. I don't necessarily need the funding, and I don't necessarily need the dedicated office, but I love the community that they, have around them.
Yeah.
They have great mentors. They have great programming. Good publicity that comes with being part of all that. Innovation Works really.
I made the
you out
comment
there.
yesterday, just live tweeting the event, that Ilana Diamond gave a clinic just giving opening remarks.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
I was like, everybody ought to be watching the film on how she did opening remarks to figure out how to present to a room full of people.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and she knows everybody. And so just knowing the value of that, I said, is there a way we can work something out?
Yeah.
They came back to me, I think the Saturday before the cycle started, and said, because I had kicked around some ideas, I'm a big fan of go to them with a solution, don't go to them with a problem.
Right.
So I laid out, here's what I think would be awesome. Just throw it. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Here's what I think would be awesome.
Here's and it's good for you and it's good for me, and here it is.
Yeah.
And it was the Saturday before the cycle started. Alana calls me. I'm on my way to Toronto for the weekend, and she calls me and says, "Hey, can you come to the founders lunch on Tuesday?" Okay.
Yeah.
And so worked out this deal. They kind of called it. They didn't really have a name for it. The pilot program. 2 other companies came under the same. These same terms, but essentially
like limited resources.
Yeah, we had basically access to the full program. We just didn't have the full office, and we didn't take the funding, but beneficial to us because we also didn't give up a bigger chunk of equity.
Oh, don't let that slip, right?
Which is a big deal. And so for me, it ended up being actually a better arrangement than had I been accepted.
Yeah. You didn't need the money.
No, and I think they liked the fact. Frankly, I think they liked the fact that they said no, and I said yeah, but there's going
to be a lot of no's.
Right. You're going to hear no. And you learn more from no's anyway. Anyone who says yes to you.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay, great. Thanks. But when you hear a no, it's like, well, tell me why. Don't walk away,
You activate your full brain on a no, and a yes is like, you get to coast.
It's just validating whatever you're doing.
Right.
Whatever I'm doing must be right.
See, I told you I'm perfect.
Right. So to get in there and to hear that no, you hear a lot of no's, like you said. Every no I hear, it's like, let's talk. Let you talk to me,
Yeah.
You buy someone lunch and you let them explain what you're doing wrong. I mean, that's really valuable.
Oh, and again, we're back to, at any given point, most of the people out there in the world, even the people that listen to this show with the intent of doing something like what you're doing, would have turned back. Okay? And that's where I take my hat off to you. That's something else that you don't find very regularly, is the decision to succeed.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a decision.
I totally agree. I do think though that not to dispute that, but so many people that you see, at least once they get into the gear program, or some of the people that you see out there really doing things, those are the people that really just they don't take no. They do just kind of push back and keep moving, because you have to. You're gonna fail over and over and over again.
But there's always going to be a reason, a completely rational reason, to just stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's hard to distill the difference between persistence and insanity. And so a lot of times, you just think like, is this nuts? Am I crazy?
I still think that every day. The only difference is the outcome. I swear to you.
That's it.
If Einstein hadn't been able to prove his math, they would have had him committed.
Right. Because you're nuts, So you have to be a little crazy. I think you just have to. I think that's one of the challenges sometimes is whatever you're doing. If you believe in it that much, like I said, it's hard to tell the difference between just being crazy. And so, there's no real way for me to rationalize it. At some point, you just say like, look, I'm just going to get up and do this again because this is what I did yesterday and this is what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Right.
I'm still doing this. You just do it.
So where does the design input come in? You got the electrical input. Where does the design come from?
So we got the electrical stuff kind of underway. I already kind of had some concepts in my head of what I wanted this device to look like. And I went out and found an industrial designer. And again, this is through now at this point, I'm at Alpha Lab Gear.
Okay. So it's a little bit easier to get the resources.
You say, hey, Alana.
Who do we know that does?
And it's boom, 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 boom. Here's 10 different people. Email all of them. And next thing you know, you've got a stack of people. It's awesome.
Honest question though. Yeah. Is it really something that you wouldn't have been able to figure out without help?
The industrial design?
Finding people that would have accepted the...
Oh, finding the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a lot tougher.
It would have taken longer.
It would have taken longer. Yeah. I think I could have gotten there. And I go to a lot of events to try to. I'm a bit of an introvert, honestly. You get out to these things, and it's like at the end of the day, it's exhausting, and I'm not always great with getting out and talking to tons and tons of people. It's
not authentic, and it bothers you.
That's right.
I think you and I are on the same frequency there.
That is exactly it. Yep, it's a little tough, but you get to know enough people in the area. Pittsburgh is cool because it's big enough, but small enough at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's big enough that everyone is around who you need to do a lot of different things. It's small enough that you go to enough events, you kind of have a feel for who's out there.
Yeah.
And I like it in that way. I mean, some people I think maybe find it a little too small. Some people maybe find it a little too big, but I think it's a nice in between.
I think people are very approachable.
I can't tell you how many people I've just emailed out of the blue and said, hey, you did something kind of similar to something that I need. You might know something. I'll buy you lunch. Let's talk. And I don't think anyone's ever said no to that I've reached out to. I mean, everybody, who doesn't want a free lunch? But, these are busy people that, you're talking to people who have gone through some of the things you're going through. These are entrepreneurs who are obviously working tirelessly to get something done. And at the same time, hey, I want to talk. Normally they'll talk.
They are burning the candle at both ends, but somebody sent the elevator back down for them and they're trying to pay it.
Well, that's exactly it. I think, you feel like, people have jumped through hoops to help me out. I'm going to jump through hoops to help someone out. I want to be that person who's part of a community. It's a community thing. And
it's one of the reasons I love this town.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's the
cool.
right nexus of that blue collar attitude where everybody is just sort of like one leg of your pants at a time. And still they value intelligence and creativity and those kinds of things in such a way that it's this beautiful collection of skills and collaboration.
Yep.
So now from the sales aspect, I'm assuming that you're going to work through distributors, resellers, retailers, that kind of a thing, but I might be wrong. Tell me how it is that you see the grand plan working out.
I mean, I think that if I knew even how far I've come so far, if I knew how much was kind of going to be involved and what this all looked like, I don't know. It'd be tough. I think I'd take a step back and say, "Woo, this is a lot." When I look at distribution, I don't know retail. It's not a world I know. It's a world that I'm learning. But when I look at it just as an outsider, and this is me being naive, I'm sure, but it's like I don't understand the distribution, the traditional distribution methods that are out there, where you talk about you've got distributors and you've got your wholesalers and you've got I'm not really looking at retail, storefronts, brick and mortar stuff. That's for multiple reasons. One, just that it's complicated, and why get into it if you don't need to?
Complexity adds to cost.
Exactly. But another reason is this is a product that doesn't sell itself very well with shelf space.
I agree with that too.
And so I can put this on a shelf, but I've got about a half a second of you looking at it before you say, I don't know what that is, and you walk away.
Right.
And so to put it on a shelf requires there's more planning that has to go on ahead of that. Yeah. You need to have already been made aware of the product. And so when I started to think about that and thinking, gee, I need to make you aware of this product. I need to show it to you. Well, now if I'm showing it to you through some sort of video ad, whether it's a TV ad or YouTube ad or whatever, if you've seen it, who in the world is out there? And I know that these people are out there, but there aren't that many people out there now that are going to watch a video ad on their TV, on their computer, and then go to a store to buy that thing.
No.
We're moving away from that world. And so now if I've taken this time to show this product to you, why not just distribute this strictly through the internet?
And I hope you don't take any offense from this. I don't mean any, right? But it feels to me so much like the one with the classic Pitchman video, right? Like that Billy Mays kind of video.
Billy Mays here.
Billy Mays here for Switcheroo. You ever get tired of paying electricians to turn lights on and off? Have you been quoted 4 figures to do this? Okay, Billy Mays isn't with us anymore, and this is terrible.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Billy.
We need to go to Slap Chop Vince instead.
Oh, yeah, that guy, yeah.
But Slap Chop Vince can punch up the right things, right?
Yeah.
You've got 30 seconds to basically make your case.
That's it.
And I kind of, and there's very few things I would ever say this about, but you need to basically get in and out with the pitch, right?
Yep.
This is hard and expensive. Here's a solution that's not. Sign here, press hard, you're making 3 copies, buy the thing, be done, right?
Right.
Operators are standing by.
Right. No, I mean,
you gotta have the little counter in the corner of the commercial too, where it's like 9:59, 9:58.
You're not the first person to say it. It's definitely a product that has some of that, sort of QVC appeal or that,
I think they can hit the long ball with it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
From a sales perspective, I think somebody who has a short attention span, captive audience, like in between, like in a commercial break kind of an environment, can say, this is why it's good, this is how you buy it, and then put you right back onto your TV program.
Yep.
And again, not very many things are really suited for that environment, but this might be it.
In that way, yeah, for sure. It's a whole different, this is a really quick, really simple. I can show it to you. I can pitch this product. You got outlets up there on the wall. I can pitch this product without saying a word.
Right.
But I can talk for 20 minutes and someone could say, I don't really understand. It's one of those, you just see it and then you get it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's one of the greatest things
ever. It presents its own
ever.
challenges, but yeah, it works well in certain cases, yeah.
But being able to punch it up in a short period of time is not, that's not friction. That's great.
Right.
Now it comes to somebody recognizing that they have the problem, and you have to sort of say, I know you're getting ready to spend this money. Don't.
Right.
So when you were having this problem, went to Amazon, went to Google, right?
Yep.
So obviously there's a search engine play here where you're like, okay, the buyer is here. The buyer is in the search engine or in Amazon. What sequence of words, keywords are we looking for?
You exactly hit it. I mean, that was the problem I had when I was searching for it.
Right.
Because I was still convinced this existed. I didn't know how to look for it. You go on Amazon, normally you just type the name of something. If you need batteries, you type batteries.
Yeah. Well, it's got a name because there's 12 different companies that are, national brands in any space.
Right. So I went on Amazon and I didn't even know what to look for. And that challenge still exists with,
I come up with some really weird ones too when I don't know what to search on.
We started playing around with some, Google campaigns. We've just done some test campaigns at this point because we were trying to drive people to the Kickstarter and do some stuff like that earlier on. And, we looked at people who are just looking up a local electrician.
Yeah.
People who are talking about remodeling.
Love that one. I love trying to intercept them at the electrician.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still, that's a work in progress.
That's an expensive click though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so, and if you look up, or if you look at keywords like rewire your house, or I think one of our biggest problems is the potential customers out there, this is not even a problem they're attempting to solve. And I sort of liken it to, if I told you I could move the doorway in your dining room to the left 6 inches, right where you want it to be, so that piece of furniture fits right there. You might say,
you've been reading my diary.
Yeah. you might say, well, I know I can do that, but I know it's expensive because you're tearing out wall. I mean, now you're moving studs. And so you're not even Googling that because you know that there's not a $39 answer to that problem.
Yeah.
And so our challenge is, before we even look at keywords, our challenge is even just letting you know that this is a solvable problem.
Yeah.
Or a lot of our competition is just the status quo. You're just going to leave this be. This is what most people do. We look at the different options. There's extension cords, there's smart home stuff, there's the electrician busting up the walls. But the biggest competition we have is just People
doing nothing.
Yeah.
There's actually entire sales systems where I remember Miller Hyman had this. I can't remember who else had it, but they actually have you list doing nothing as one of the competitors to your sales pitch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And people don't realize how many times that competitor wins.
Yeah, it's it's won out so far. When you look at home automation stuff and how it's selling, and it's obviously a pretty big industry and a growing industry, but there's a lot of fatigue involved with the people who are already buying into it, and there's a lot of lack of acceptance from people who just aren't into techie stuff and say, I don't need more complication in my life. I need less.
I hear that a lot more lately
people out
than
there,
I even did 2 years ago.
Yep. I hear that, when the iPhone first launched, however many years, 10 years ago now, I guess. And soon after that, it was starting to pick up. People were starting to play around with this. And I remember saying to people, maybe even like my parents, hey, you should check out this iPhone because they got these little complicated flip phones.
I remember.
They came with manuals.
I remember.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Little books that nobody read. I read them because I'm a geek. And I read them because I had to change my parents' ringtones occasionally and get photos off the phone. And I didn't know how to, and nobody knew how to. So I would say to people, instead of all this complication, you just need an iPhone. And they'd say, the iPhone does email and web, and I don't need that kind of account. I can't even use this flip phone. Why in the world do I want something that does more?
And that's what you were talking about when you said simplicity.
Yeah.
It solves a lot of problems, but it takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that I think is tough to sell. The Nest thermostat.
Love it.
Where you walk around and, and I said to my parents one time, my parents had like the programmable, that's what I have in my house right now, actually. The little one where you set the days of the week. And
Oh,
that thing is awful.
Mm-hmm.
And, my parents had one of them and they said, this is just getting too complicated. I said, why don't you go get a Nest? You just spin the little thing when you're hot or cold. Like, that's it.
It's super easy.
It's super easy. And again, my mom said, this is more complication than I need. I can barely work this one. Why do I need a more expensive one? The assumption being that because this is more expensive, it's more complicated.
And it does more, then it must be so much harder.
Right.
Right.
And it's not always true.
You went through all these different stages.
Yeah.
To basically get to a point
right.
where you could just not talk.
right, absolutely.
So you've got this marketing background, you go through the lawyer, you go through the electrical engineer, you go through the industrial engineer. You're like, what I really want to do is just not have to say anything to sell this product.
That's it.
And that's the simplicity taking a ton of work.
That's exactly it. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why at the beginning of the show, I said, you may very well be my hero.
I show it to people and they go, oh, that's really neat. 2 weeks later, they email me like, hey, can I pre-order this now? When can I get one?
Right.
They don't, because it's like you go home and you start scratching your head and you say, you know what? I have that outlet there. Oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
I forget what stand-up it was who said he had joke grenades where he would pull the pin, he'd throw them into the audience, and like 8 seconds later they would go off. You've got a product grenade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You pull the pin and 2 weeks later it goes off. And people are like, Mike, you might be a genius.
I do. I mean, I'll get some people who say right away, I need that. Send it to me now. I want it. But yeah, you do get this kind of a slow burn there too, if people get home and realize.
So in terms of total size of your market, give me an idea because that had to be a hard number to come by. How many of these do we think we can sell, or what's the size of the potential market? Every investor asks for it.
I was at a pitch event early on. This was the Hardware Cup. It was the very first year they did the Hardware Cup. I participated, and I got that question, and I think my answer was, my target market is humans with electricity.
Wise ass.
Yeah, they didn't like it. No, I mean, I got some laughs, but I don't know if that played well with the judges. It is tough. One thing we can narrow down is that we know that over half of households have switched outlets.
Yeah.
So right now we're ruling out the people that don't have switched outlets. Generally, you can use this with Christmas lights. You can plug it into a timer and have a whole bunch of Christmas lights turn on together. Or, you can even extend like existing smart outlet things and plug these in kind of at a fraction of the cost and increase your automation if you do have one of those systems. So it works if you don't have switched outlets.
Yeah.
But that we're really going after that 60% of the homes out there that have that.
That's all. I mean, that's a good sized target there.
It's a chunk. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some people in there.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming in. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm glad to meet you face to face.
Yeah, great to meet you as well. Yeah.
If anybody wants to buy Switcheroo, how would they do it?
We're doing pre-orders right now. Mm-hmm. We did a Kickstarter campaign back in January. And so on the website, switcheroo.com, easy to remember, you can do pre-orders right there.
Very good. Mike, I appreciate you coming in, and I wish you all the success in the world. I'm not joking. I'm very impressed by what you have accomplished.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, that's all the time we've got this week. Thank you, Mike Neilson from Switcheroo. It was a true pleasure having you in here. I really identify with what you're doing, and I can't help but feel motivated to go start something I have no background in. And that is a compliment. I am not giving you a hard time. I'm very impressed by just the determination and doggedness that it took to say, this is the thing that needs to exist, and then make it happen. And I was holding it in my hand. A handmade prototype of Switcheroo was in my hand here. I'll post the photos on the blog. He dreamt it. He hired the right people. He had it built. It's very impressive. It is a testament to someone's determination. And if you're thinking about doing something and you didn't take something out of this story, then I can't help you. I'm just tremendously impressed by Mike Neilson and what he's pulled off already. I can't wait to see where things go from here. If there's anything we can do for you, make sure you hit us up, social media channels, or on the website. That's all Pitchwerks, Pitchwerks. In the meantime, you'll just be waiting until next Wednesday for your next Pitchwerks podcast. I'll catch you then.
The Pitchwerks Podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com. Pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, Pitchwerks.